Following the events of May 2025, the reported air combat between India and Pakistan introduced new dynamics to regional military assessments, especially surrounding the operational deployment of the J-10C fighter by the Pakistan Air Force (PAF). This fighter, an advanced multirole platform built by Chengdu Aerospace Corporation in China, had been in Pakistani service since March 2022. The aircraft was originally inducted to counter perceived gaps in Pakistan's airpower when compared to India's acquisition of Rafale jets from France. While initial deployment was focused on deterrence, the 2025 engagement marked its first combat use. Pakistan maintains that the J-10C was used exclusively in its air operations during the short but intense aerial encounter in early May 2025. The country's Air Force officials stated that only J-10C aircraft were authorized to perform offensive air-to-air tasks during that operation, supported by Airborne Early Warning and Control (AEW&C) systems and ground-based radar. The aircraft were armed with PL-15E long-range missiles, which had not been used in combat anywhere in the world until that point. The combination of a powerful radar, high-speed data link capability, and long-range missile enabled Pakistan to engage Indian aircraft at extended distances, possibly before Indian pilots had visual or radar contact. PAF claims indicated that 6 Indian aircraft were engaged and successfully neutralized, including 3 Rafale fighters. This claim, if accurate, would constitute the most significant combat loss of Indian Air Force assets since the Kargil conflict of 1999. Pakistan attributed the kills entirely to its J-10C fleet, with missile engagement ranges estimated to be beyond 100 kilometers. These claims were followed by public statements from senior officials, asserting the success of the Chinese-supplied platform and calling the engagement a turning point in the country's air combat capability. India's Ministry of Defense did not initially respond to these allegations with specific information. However, amid growing international coverage and political pressure within India, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Anil Chauhan, addressed the situation publicly. He acknowledged that India had indeed lost aircraft during the operation, referring to them as operational losses sustained during high-intensity tactical maneuvers. Although he did not confirm the number of jets lost or the type of aircraft involved, he acknowledged that the opposing side had executed a well-coordinated engagement. He insisted, however, that the Pakistani claim of 6 Indian aircraft downed was greatly exaggerated. His statement was interpreted as a partial admission without full transparency, fueling criticism from domestic political opposition and retired defense officials. One of the most controversial figures to weigh in was Subramanian Swamy, a prominent politician and member of the governing party with a long history of challenging official defense narratives. Swamy stated in an interview that he had received briefings indicating 5 Indian aircraft had been shot down during the exchange. He directly criticized the Rafale program, questioning whether the jet's combat survivability had been overestimated. His statements received strong reactions within Indian political circles and were widely circulated in international media, with some interpreting them as validation of Pakistani claims. Adding complexity to the situation, Donald Trump, the former U.S. president and 2024 Republican nominee, made comments during a private dinner in July 2025 in which he stated that 5 jets were shot down during the India-Pakistan conflict. Although Trump did not specify which country's jets he was referring to, the remark was widely interpreted by global analysts as referring to Indian losses, especially given that similar statements had already emerged from other sources. The fact that a high-profile U.S. political figure made such a claim without being corrected by present U.S. officials contributed to the perception that Pakistan's version of the events might be partially accurate. Media outlets, citing unnamed U.S. defense sources, reported that American satellite data confirmed the destruction of at least 2 Indian aircraft during the operation, one of which was identified as a Rafale. These sources indicated that infrared and radar-based evidence supported the conclusion that J-10C platforms launched the PL-15E missiles responsible for the kills. However, due to the classified nature of the intelligence, these reports could not be independently verified or corroborated through open sources. The incident also drew attention to the performance of the Rafale, a French-made multirole fighter that had previously been regarded as one of the most advanced in the region. The reported vulnerability of the Rafale to long-range missile engagements from the J-10C has prompted a re-evaluation of how air combat superiority is calculated. Indian defense analysts argued that Rafales were not operating with full electronic warfare support during the skirmish and may have been flying without full battlefield situational awareness. Others criticized the decision to deploy them in areas where Pakistani early warning systems had already achieved aerial tracking dominance. From a capability standpoint, the J-10C performed as intended, operating under networked battle conditions, launching weapons beyond visual range, and successfully disengaging without suffering losses. According to Pakistani sources, none of the J-10Cs used in the operation were damaged or lost, and the aircraft returned safely to their base. This contrasts with prior decades in which such engagements resulted in losses on both sides. China, the supplier of the J-10C and the PL-15E missile system, officially refused to comment on the situation. The Chinese Foreign Ministry stated that they had no involvement in foreign combat operations and were not aware of the specific deployments or actions of platforms they had sold to other countries. Despite this, international defense experts noted that Beijing was closely monitoring the performance of its exported weapon systems in live combat, as the results could significantly impact future sales and strategic credibility. India has since begun reviewing its air defense doctrine, with reports suggesting that the Air Force is looking to accelerate acquisition of airborne jamming and electronic warfare pods, improve satellite-based early warning, and reassess the positioning of fighter assets near contested zones. Senior military planners have reportedly advised integrating Rafale squadrons more deeply with AEW&C systems and ground-based missile defenses. For Pakistan, the successful use of the J-10C, if confirmed, would validate a significant strategic investment. The engagement would reinforce the decision to purchase a high-end platform that complements its existing fleet of JF-17s and legacy F-16s. It may also influence future procurement strategies, including possible expansion of the J-10C fleet and acquisition of supporting combat enablers such as electronic warfare aircraft and more AEW&C platforms. The May 2025 conflict did not escalate into a broader war but changed the military balance of perception across South Asia. It introduced new variables in air combat engagement, especially involving missile range, first detection, and electronic dominance. Regardless of which version of events is entirely accurate, the operation has become a case study for the risks of modern air combat and the importance of integrating systems, rather than relying solely on platform capabilities.